Welcome to the Grant Writing Simplified podcast. This is the place to learn how to make a big impact in your community through grant writing and nonprofit consulting. The world needs you to step forward as a grant writer and use your skills to lead with confidence. I'm Teresa Huff, former special ed teacher turned grant writer and nonprofit strategist. In my 20 years of freelancing, I've helped nonprofits triple their funding and exponentially increase their reach. Now I'm stepping up to mentor freelancers and nonprofit leaders like you who are ready to take your skills to the next level. It's time to get intentional about your vision so you can create lasting change in your community. Learn the skills and strategies you need to become the grant writer the world needs. Let's do this. Hey friends, welcome to episode 71. Today, as we are nearing the end of 2021, I thought it would be fun to do another book roundup of the whole year. I think it's so important that we always be learning, whatever field we're in, whatever occupation, even just something fun on the side that's completely different from our usual work. It's important to always be learning. And of course, a good old book roundup is never a bad idea. I did one of these back in episode 32 for the 6-month anniversary of the podcast. And so you can go back to that one as well to find out the books that had been recommended on the show up to that point, plus a couple of others that I had read myself by then. So now this is going to pick up where that left off. And I'm going to cover the books that guests have recommended since then, plus a couple that I've been reading this year that I've really enjoyed. Back in episode 27, Dr. Johnathan Kraus shared that success leaves clues. And he's right, and I've thought about that ever since then. That was the first time I had ever heard it. But then I thought it was interesting because David Jasse also made the same point in episode 59. Those were both really good episodes full of all kinds of wisdom. But they both said that about success leaves clues. And one of the clues of successful people is that they are always learning. And learning is a vital part of becoming better, of improving ourselves, of staying sharp, of just staying on our toes. On the flip side, we can't get stuck in learning mode only. We also really need to take action. And this is a big part of the Fast Track to Grant Writer program. We have a supportive community and accountability to help people learn grant writing. But the lessons and the homework are strategically designed for those who are ready to take action. And that's the big difference. We can't just sit with our learning. Learning feels good and it feels busy and it is important, but it's not the only thing. We also need to be taking action. And I have several Fast Track to Grant Writer students that are taking big action, and I'm so proud of them. They're having conversations with prospective clients. They're setting up meetings. And after going through the first few modules of the program, they already have a solid understanding of what types of services they can start out offering nonprofits. And plus, the group is just so supportive and shares those ideas together. So it's really cool to see how each one is taking unique action based on their specific skill set and the types of nonprofits that they want to work with. And in the Fast Track alumni program, those who have already been through the Fast Track and we stay together for accountability, one of them has her website ready and she's sending out proposals to prospective clients. Another landed a new client and has a full client load right now. So it is so cool, and it just speaks to the importance of both learning and action. Because at some point, yeah, you've learned all this stuff, but now you've got to put it into practice. You've got to take action on it. I enjoy learning from others too. I have a stack of books way too high that I always have going at once. And because of that, you may have noticed I always ask my guests at the end of each interview about a resource that has been helpful for them in their journey. And so this list today is books from others that I've curated and they've shared why it's impacted them. But it's also interesting, I don't quantify the question, but some of my guests share a book and some of them share something entirely different, like maybe a mentor or a group that they're in or something like that, that has really made a difference for them in their career and their confidence. For the first part of the list, go back to episode 32, where I talk about what it really means to change the world. You know how I'm always telling you, go change your world. And that may not be what you think. So go back to episode 32 where you can hear that, and then that book roundup from the first 6 months of the podcast. Here is the book roundup for the rest of 2021. Number 1, Dr. Johnathan Kraus in episode 27 shared the book Asking, a 59-minute guide to everything board members, volunteers, and staff must know to secure the gift. That's Asking by Gerald Panas. And I will link to all of these in the show notes, of course. Number 2 was from Rodney Olson in episode 48, where he shared their cool journey to bike across Australia to raise awareness for children in poverty there through Compassion Australia. His book that he recommended was called When Helping Hurts by Steve Corbett and Brian Fickert. Number 3 is The Ambassador's Journey. This was written by my guest Brian Brandt in episode 57, and he had such good tips to share on board leadership and board development and just nonprofit development in general. He also sent me a copy of that book, which I appreciated, and it is a very down-to-earth, practical kind of storytelling style, but yet it weaves all those elements and important factors into the story. Number 4, The Go-Giver by John David Mann and Bob Berg. This was recommended by Alicia Mathis in episode 67. And she truly has a heart for nonprofits and especially for founders and fundraising. I think if you listen back to that episode, you will just hear her enthusiasm and her passion for helping founders. She also has written a book herself called I Have My 501c3. Now what? The first few preview pages on Amazon, it looks like it's going to be really down to earth and practical. And she has been in the trenches, so she really understands what it's like as a nonprofit founder. The next one is called The Givers by David Callahan. And this was recommended by last week's guest, Shannon McCracken, in episode 70. She has been in nonprofit work for years and has held some big positions and really understands the landscape and the trends and what's happening at that higher level and how things are trending into 2022. So if you didn't catch last week's episode in episode 70, go back and listen to that interview with Shannon. Now, these last 3 are books that I have read this year, just in the last few months, and that have especially stood out to me as being helpful and more inspiring about the work and our purpose behind the work and how to really maximize our efforts around our work. And I think this is important, especially in any field, but when we're working with nonprofits, it's important to really understand our deeper why and our focus and where our focus needs to be, because it's easy to get discouraged or tired or scattered in too many different directions. So these have been especially helpful for me this year. The first is Willpower Doesn't Work by Benjamin Hardy. And of all the different time management books and things, he presents this a little differently and with some different strategies that I really hadn't ever considered before in that context. So it's a really good perspective. And then the next one is Master of One by Jordan Rayner. I mentioned this a few episodes back that I was reading it. It's also a very good one about our work and how we need to focus. And finally, A Million Little Ways by Emily P. Freeman. This was just a good, inspiring book to really stretch and lean into your creativity and use that in a practical way and how to think through and how to step up into that role. And I am always looking for recommendations of a good read. So if you have some, feel free to let me know. Come over on LinkedIn and let's chat books. I found that a lot of grant writers are natural researchers and readers as well. That's a good quality trait to have. So if you are, then let's talk books. I will have a couple more to add because I have a couple of guest episodes recorded that are so good. It's been quite a while since we've done a nonprofit spotlight in particular. And next week I have a special guest interview that's a nonprofit spotlight, and it is so good. The information there and just her story and the things she shares, you guys are going to love it. It's such a good episode. So make sure you come back next week for that. Now, you all have heard me talk quite a bit about the Fast Track to Grant Writer and how it's a 90-day program to really kickstart your grant writing career. I know things can be hectic right now around the holidays with everything coming up, but if you join now, I will not start the 90-day count until January 1st. So you would actually get a couple weeks of extra time in the program. As soon as you join, you get access to the modules so you can start learning immediately. But then that gives you a little breathing room through the holidays of the next couple weeks to not feel like the clock's ticking, the pressure's on. I want you to have that extra time to be able to really soak it in and enjoy your time with your family, but also be able to still get a jump start on it. Go through there, start figuring some of these things out and laying the groundwork for your nonprofit career in 2022. If that is something that you're considering, let me know. If you're not quite ready to sign up or you have questions, please shoot me a message on my website or message me on LinkedIn and let's chat about it. I'd love to help you figure out if that's a good fit for you going into the new year. All right, friends, that is the 2021 book roundup. Everything will be linked in the show notes, and you can just click through there to any of the episodes I've mentioned or any of the books as well. Send me a message with any of your favorites, and I will add those to the list for the next round. All right, my friends, take care and go change your world.